Hey guys, what's going on? This is Jeff. So today we're going to make a video to talk about the pros and cons of Maui, you know. So I've only lived here for just over a month. That's not a very long time, right? I mean, I've been here about four times before I actually moved here, visited, so I got to think about things and weigh some other thoughts as a visitor, and then also now kind of just a longer term resident of Maui. So the overall, I know Condé Nast, TripAdvisor, they've ranked Maui as the #1 world island in the world. I don't know if that's necessarily for living, but as far as visiting, Condé Nast and TripAdvisor both said that it's the best island in the world. You can look it up, best island, okay? So, as far as living here, it is expensive, yes. I mean, I could tell you that it's not, but I mean, if you go by many metrics, yeah, you're going to say if you live in Ohio, it's going to be expensive compared to Ohio. Yeah, and I know I made a video about how you can manage these expenses in a way that, yeah, you can do that, but it's still expensive. I mean, if you want to live here, if you want to visit here, it's expensive for hotel accommodation and for rental or owning. So when I say it's expensive, meaning it's higher than most places in all of the United States. Maybe San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and someplace in New York, and maybe like South Beach and Los Angeles might have some areas that are maybe more expensive, but overall, Maui's expensive. Hotels start at like $220. I mean, I consider this kind of a downside, okay? So this is kind of like a con. Now, a pro would be great weather. I mean, some people would complain it's hot, but I think it's fantastic weather even when it's hot. I mean, I've been to the coldest of the colds, and I've been to the hottest of the hots, and it's neither of those, so it's in between, and it stays that way. And you can beat the heat by getting around the island. Paia's got some really great weather, and so does Napili on the north side of the island. Another pro to living here would be, a lot of beaches, just beaches everywhere. Tropical climate, which is weather, but also just the tropical feeling and environment. People, they're friendly people here. The people are really friendly. Occasionally you do run across your mainland person who's in a really bad way and not, has not been influenced by the aloha attitude. And they might bring you down, but it's rarely ever going to be a local person that you just meet. Obviously, if you get involved with people who are on drugs or something and you try to befriend them, that would not be recommended. People who are just not stable, you might have a bad experience. But even those people put on a pretty good front with the aloha thing, so as long as you don't get too cozied up with the wrong person, you're gonna have a really positive experience with people. Whereas, in California and Fresno or someplace like that, you might not feel so much like that. It might not feel like that. Another pro is it's pretty good. The roads are pretty good. I mean, it's a pretty good road situation. It could be a lot worse. You know what I mean? It could be traffic jam, or it could be like really crummy roads. I mean, there's two roads that are one way, because Maui essentially does a figure eight, right? So from Wailuku, you could go north around the West Maui Mountains, turn around, come through Lahaina, and then come back around and end back up in Wailuku. Or you could really go towards Kihei. But the weird thing is the road doesn't go all the way through Kihei to Hana. So you can't, there's no flow of traffic that goes right through there. So you actually have to go around Lahaina, back through Wailuku, up country, and then you can either go around Hana, around the backside, or you can go around the backside, Kula and whatnot, all the way back down towards, Paia, up country, and into Wailuku again. So it's kind of like an 8, you know what I mean? A figure 8. It's not an exact figure 8, but it's kind of like that. So, but two of those roads, the one around the West Maui Mountains is kind of an iffy road. I like it. People don't really care for it. And then the other iffy road is the one past Hana that comes back around into Kula the back way. So the roads, though, overall, I think they're done pretty good. Let's see, the next pro. Obviously, there's a lot more pros than there is going to be cons. But if I could, let's do a con. If I come off the cuff with the con, I'd say the food situation is still not ideal. I don't think the best food quality gets to the islands, and I don't think that the best food quality that's being grown on the islands is going to feed the people on the islands. So it's kind of one of those circumstances. Maybe the fruit and veggies can be pretty good if you're I know a lot of vegetarians and fruitarians or people close to that kind of lifestyle. They seem to live it up. So do the yoga people. People who, if you're into yoga, this is a great place to be, of course, because you got a beautiful climate to do yoga, and people get really excited and do slacklining and other outdoor activities that are in line with that culture's stuff. And most of the time, that's the vegetarian, like earth consciousness. People who care about, who are a little bit more mindful about their carbon footprint on the earth. They're cool. The only time that those types of people ever get into anything with people who don't think like them is when you have a pretentious crowd, people who want to preach to the world and feel like they're the self-righteous ones who God loves more than the others, and that that their behavior should be emulated and duplicated and the only thing practiced. But very seldom do you get that kind of dogma or pretentious attitude here on the islands, even with the people who feel as though they have more earth consciousness than the people who do not. Another pro would be fairly decent airport situation. You can get off the island pretty easy, come back to the island pretty easy without having to have much issues. Another con that kind of keeps coming up is, where are you going to get public transportation, right? So some people have complained about Uber not being here, the buses not being able to hold enough people when they get busy, stuff like that. The public transportation is pretty good, but it needs a little bit less emphasis on trying to get you into a cab to pay a lot of money. Or, people want to take Uber too, but I think the bus system is pretty good. It's hard to complain, but I would say just a little bbit more public transportation. Maybe if you can get something to go up to Hana, or maybe if you can get something to go around the other side of the island, then it would be perfect. But I just like public transportation that doesn't cost a lot of money, and I feel like you kind of have to get a rental car when you come here, or you kind of do need a truck or a car when you live here. Although it does enough job, but I just think it could be a little bit better. So it's kind of like a pro and a con at the same time. When weather strikes here, it can affect it. It's a valley isle, so like when there's heavy winds, you'll always feel those heavy winds, and they can be pretty breezy. Also, when it rains, it pours. It's kind of like, it does everything in extremes, really. So like if it rains, it pours, and it doesn't rain much in Kihei, that's for sure. But when it does, it'll flood because it's a valley isle. When it's windy, it's pretty windy. Like, it's not like super hurricane force wind or anything, but that's another thing. A hurricane could, come here. Now it does not have the same con as the Big Island, which is with the volcano. So that's a good thing. And if I just were to point out Haleakala, that's the volcano. People enjoy getting sunsets and sunrises from Haleakala. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, like, I'm not saying you're a sun worshiper, but if you do enjoy it, Haleakala is a fun place, and so are all the other beaches. When there's big waves, people get hyped up. That becomes a big thing on the island. You get worldwide attention, like when Piahi and Jaws is going off. People are getting excited. People are, it's a big deal. Maui gets excited too. They feel the pressure. They get some big name surfers and big name celebrities to come to the island then. You're also probably going to have a little bit of extra expenses that you might not have if you're, like, say, living in Chicago or something. You're going to have to get hats, extra flip-flops, or slippers as some people call them, okay? That's what they call them here. You're going to have to relearn the dialect a little bit, that's Pidgin, okay? sunglasses, sunscreen, stuff like that. Those can kind of add up. But the benefit is you also don't have to buy scarves, sweatshirts, Uggs, stuff like that. Now another thing that kind of stands out as maybe a downside or a con would be the lack of public amenities, like a world-class movie theater if you're into that kind of thing, or a world-class mall, or a Best Buy. Those don't exist here. They do have a Costco, they do have a Target that they newly built. That's some things that people do enjoy. Just being able to live on an island, being separate from the rest of the chaos going on. I mean, that's a pro, right? That's pretty cool. Other than that, there's just a couple other things that I can pull off this list here. They say the cost of living, we already mentioned that. They say the housing cost is high, we already mentioned that. Far away from family, that's a downside. The fog and smoke, the fog and the smoke from sugarcane burning, I have no problem with these. I do not have any allergic reactions to fog from the smoke. But, when they're burning sugarcane, that's an issue. If the volcano is cranking fog all the way up here, which is rare, then, you feel that. Limited career growth, it's hard to get a career started here in Maui. That's a downside. You'll miss some of the big things. That was the entertainment that I was talking about. No big pro football team, basketball team, baseball team, stuff like that. The culture, the Hawaiian culture is full of aloha, but not everybody can adapt to it. So, some people, they come over here so hardwired that it's hard for them to start giving things freely and kind of, a lot of people seem to think that that's making fun of them, because I know in the Western culture and in the United States, what's mine is mine, right? It's not necessarily what's mine is yours. Here in Hawaii, it's more like, well, what's mine can also be yours in small moderation, In America, it's like, I earn it, I keep it, I spend it. That's how most people really think in certain areas. Whereas over here, it's not necessarily about how much money you have, it's about how much aloha you have, And a lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, let me just take a lesson out of the Hawaiians book since they have it all figured out with how to be an appropriate person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's how aloha is in compared to the way that some people on the mainland think. If it's mine, I earned it, I keep it, no sharing with somebody that I don't know. Okay? Over here, it's kind of cool to share with people that you don't know. So some people have a hard time adapting to that. So that can be a con for people who don't want to change their ways. And I'm not saying you're a bad person if you don't want to change your ways. It's just face the facts. What are the advantages of living on Maui? The nature is beauty. We already talked about that. The weather, of course, they mentioned that. The culture and the people. So people like aloha. Generally less stress. Yeah, it is less stress. They did say, be sure to get on Amazon. Try to check out Costco. Other than that, enjoy the Maui smells, enjoy the Maui sights, Maui Christmas, and aloha, and subscribe to the channel if you like.